Hey guys, welcome back to my video. It's been a while since I've done videos, but I think like from time to time there are important issues where I think I'm gonna chime in. As you can see, my camera today is not the same as usual. It's just a webcam, and you can also see behind me, especially over that side, there's a lot of chaos going on, and that's because I'm preparing to shoot some things for a music project. Actually, I'm doing some promotional videos, all my equipment is kind of over there, including the good camera. I think, in fact, you can see the edge of it just sticking out there behind the monitor. Anyway, guys, today I'm gonna talk about climate change a little bit. We're not gonna watch this video because I don't want to get in trouble with YouTube, but I will share this video in the comments. It's a good video. Go and have a look. It's about the LA fires, and but I'm just gonna kind of use some stills from the video to talk about some stuff. Okay, so this is from Kyle Kulinski, Secular Talk. He's talking about the LA fires. There are some parts where it's from some kind of news things, and then he does his own segment. This is from his segment in particular, and yeah, you've probably seen this headline posted going around, I would say, that the world is has breached the 1.5 degrees Celsius global warming target for the first time in 2024. Yeah, so that was actually posted last year, towards the end of last year. Look, guys, I've been making videos about climate change for definitely many years, okay? I have my climate change course up, which is completely free on YouTube. You can go check that out as well. And that's been up for a couple of years. I've been warning people about that. And I'm not like a super scientist. I'm not like a professional scientist, okay? Professional scientists have been doing that for much longer than me, but I've also been beating the drum for a while because I can see what's going on. I'm not blind. I can look at the evidence. I can understand the evidence. Some people just discard it. Unfortunately, many people just don't care whatsoever. I'm sure even after this video, pretty much probably nobody will go check out my course. Because I know how it goes. I know people. Unfortunately, I talk to people sometimes, and some from time to time they ask me, "Oh, how do you know that about me? How do you know that?" But that's because I observe people. I've been observing people for over a decade, and I know kind of the ins and out. I know how people think. I can I can predict things based on that, and that's kind of part of human psychology. You don't need to be like a professional psychologist to really understand people. There's my cat there. You don't need to be a professional psychologist to understand people. In fact, it's in your best interest to understand the psychology of people, because then um you can kind of anticipate certain people. You can make patterns of people. Oh, okay, that person has these type of behaviors, so he's probably, or she is like a toxic kind of person. So I'm gonna save my time, and I'm gonna avoid talking to that person. I'm gonna just, yeah, avoid. This is especially useful if you're using some kind of dating or meeting apps. People definitely fall into categories, okay? And the faster you can figure out like which category, which pot they fit in, the faster you can save your time, and you can also save their time, probably, because you know maybe you don't fit them, right? So you want to avoid all these situations. But I'm just saying that because I know like how people think. I can kind of anticipate how people think, and this is all part of human psychology, and you can read up on it as well. But you also have your own intuition, which probably gets better with time, over time. Probably, I mean, that's the hope. You get older, you get more experience, you get wiser. This is kind of the logical steps. When it comes to climate change, though, a lot of people just don't care. A lot of people don't care. And even after this, after pretty much like all the disasters, the people who care are the people who are directly affected by it. But the people outside of that area, it's like, pff, Come on, bro, that's not gonna happen to me. Who cares, right? And yeah, I mean, that's, I don't know. It's a failure of education. It's a failure of information. It's a failure from those individuals to do actual proper research, because for them, like, I'm not even kidding, but for them, like, the research is, they're Googling things which they've heard before, which are wrong, and they Google that, and they basically do confirmation bias. I remember, like, this was many years ago, but on my page, someone told me that they did research on Google about why the planet is cooling. So you know that that myth, right? That was kind of spread probably in the early 2000s, right? That climate change is actually not happening. It's all a hoax, and actually the planet is not warming, but it's cooling. And that was based on, I believe, some data points that were used in the late 90s, and they looked at a very, very tiny and very specific series of data points that were spanning, I'm not even joking, it was like maybe 2 months or something, 2 or 3 months. And indeed, in those 2 or 3 months, the temperature was not really moving. So they saw that, and they jumped on that, and they said, "Oh, you see that? You see that? That means that the Earth is not warming." But no, what they were doing in reality is they were completely misleading people. They were completely misleading the audience by looking at the small picture instead of looking at the macro picture. In fact, even for that year, if they looked at, you know, the whole year, they would see that they were wrong. But obviously, they were trying to make some quick money. They were trying to build up an audience on YouTube, and there you go. It worked. So, coming back to this particular video, though, so the 1.5 global warming target, why is it important? Okay, so I'll tell you why. This target, obviously, it's a target that it's a bit arbitrary, you know, but there is a point to it, and I can understand why they picked that. But that target, though, it was planned to be reached in 2030. Okay, that's what I always heard anyway. That's what I always studied about. That 1.5, we were trying to avoid that before 2030. Okay, so obviously we already broke that record. That's gone. Okay, and that's like 2024. So 6 years early, we're already there. I don't want to go on too much about it, but I did predict that we're going to reach 1.5 much sooner than 2030. Why I said that is because I'm also measuring temperatures, and I will show you my own tracker, and this is it. So I started measuring temperatures in 2016, 2017. Oh no, 2017, 2018. That's right. Yeah. That was my first full cycle. And compared to that cycle last year, okay, so the last cycle, it was 1.69 degrees higher. So my area is actually just south of Yokohama. Temperatures here in summer are pretty extreme, I would say, in general. People tell me that, 30, 40 years ago, it was not that bad. But then again, I think you can make that argument for any point in the world. You can pretty much say, well, yeah, in most areas 30 or 40 years ago, it was not that bad. But I would say that definitely in the last 10, 15 years, it's gotten a lot worse, a hell of a lot worse. And it's just more hot, it's more humid here. Well, we don't get wildfires in the summer, but I heard like the reason for that is because of the humidity, actually. The humidity prevents wildfires, but I'm not sure if that's actually true. I don't think that's a true argument. I mean, I'd have to look more into that, because I know that in places like Brazil or Indonesia, which are humid places as well, hot and humid, but they do have fires. And like, okay, some of them are actually started by humans because you know they're burning forests to replace them with agricultural land, which already that in itself is a travesty. But I mean that happens. But the fires do burn though. Okay, it's not like the fires don't start because it's humid. So I don't think that's the reason here. I think there is something else. But okay, that's something to look into maybe some other time. Anyway, yeah, so compared to my first reading, which was not that long ago, okay, 2017, 2018, that's not long ago. Last year, so 2020, 2023, 24, that would be the cycle. We already have plus 169 degrees Celsius higher, okay? So that's how I know this is not bullshit, okay? And yeah, they were warning about that. And why? Because at 1.5, you start to reach certain tipping points, which become very, very difficult to come back from. And the more we heat up the planet, the more of these tipping points will be broken. Well, first reached and then broken. And it's just going to be really, really difficult to come back from it. And that's why they're saying that we have to be careful to not reach certain levels. But unfortunately, again, that's what I said, people don't listen, people don't care, and yeah, we're just going into disaster land faster and faster. Now this graph here, I'd be curious to go to the actual source of this, and actually there is a link there, but I can't click on it obviously because this is a YouTube video. But they're talking specifically about the LA wildfires and like why it happened, and it's a combination of things actually. It's not like one thing. It's kind of a combination of things. It's about precipitation, that it was very dry. There was the wind speed, which they had some really, really high wind speeds between like 80 to 100 miles per hour. And this is like kind of hurricane level winds, really. So you get like an ember, you got like a small fire starting somewhere. It's gonna, well, it's gonna spread like wildfire. There you go. And that's exactly what we see. So you can go to that particular tweet later. You can go and check out the link in that particular link. I'm not gonna do that yet. I mean, that's not really what I'm doing for. But this graph is also very interesting. You can see that I actually have a few things to say about that. So listen carefully, guys. What we have here is a graph of temperatures, okay? And you can see that, it's warming up a little bit. We have natural cycles, okay? So without like human activity, there are, well, even with human activity, you still have natural cycles, but they usually have a range, okay? Even if you look, I mean, this picture, it goes back to like the year minus 20,000, right? But you can even go like far beyond that, even to the times of mass extinctions, and you can still see kind of natural variations. And especially the interesting one to look at is the carbon dioxide parts per million. That one always had a natural limit to it, okay? And you can go and look at that graph, okay? You can see that it kind of peaks at certain levels, okay? But now, with human activity, and especially after the Industrial Revolution, in fact, you can even see that, the Industrial Revolution kind of kickstarts everything. But this graph is very compressed, actually. You'd have to really expand the last 250 years to see what's going on, really. And there is a reason why right now we're peaking, and I'll get to that right now. So the reason why this extreme jump happens, okay? This this huge jump actually happens, I would say, after World War II. And there's a reason for that. Let's look at this number. Let's look at this number. That's a good number to start with. So if you look at here, 1900, okay, so that's the start of the last century. The population of the world was 1.6 billion people, okay? So this is like before even World War One, definitely before World War Two for sure. 1.6 billion people. And if you look, let's say 1952, okay, so that's the year, that's the closest year they have to the end of World War II. The population of the world was 2.5 billion, okay, so this is already after World War II, which was bloody, and millions, like tens of millions of people died, but it didn't matter to the world population because that kept increasing and increasing. But from 1952 to 2024, we more than tripled the world population, okay? And if you look at the curve of emissions, actually, of like emissions of CO2 and methane, etc., that curve matches perfectly our curve, okay? So it really goes hand in hand. The more people we have, and that's not like, that's not kind of rocket science. That's kind of easy to understand. The more people you have, the more emissions people produce. That's just kind of logical. That's just logical. Unless, like, a large portion of the population chooses to live completely green, which doesn't happen. Well, not yet anyway. More people are going to consume more and more stuff, and people need more cars. Even in general, I'm not even talking about developed countries. I'm also talking about developing countries. Once you finish university, you have to go to your workplace, right? So that means probably in developing countries, that means you get a motorcycle, and motorcycle creates emissions. Now you live at home, probably it's very hot, so that means you need fans, or you need air conditioner, and that means more emissions. So unfortunately, emissions are tied to people. The more people we have, the more emissions there are. Now, we're trying to cut down on emissions, right? And there's many ways to do that. One way, of course, is to make maybe vehicles that are more efficient, and certainly people are working on that. There are ways to make certain devices more efficient. I can guarantee you that the air conditioners of today are definitely more efficient than those 25 years ago, for sure. For sure. But they're still not green. And that's kind of the point, that nothing is 100% green. So there's still a lot of work to do. So coming back to this graph here, unfortunately, you see this kind of, this graph doesn't have it, okay? This is just the population. But if you find graphs of population and emissions, you'll see that they're very, very close together. Like they're really linked together. And that's not, that's not a coincidence. So, yeah. Well, if you look at this graph, it says that 2 degrees is expected before 2050. But usually when we talk in these terms, that means that they're trying to say, okay, let's look at 2050 and let's look at the variation of the temperature in 2050, okay? But I can guarantee you that the rate that we're going right now, we're going to be way past 2 degrees in 2050. I mean, if we already broke the record in 2024 for 1.5, what's 2 degrees? I mean, it's nothing. It's like it's a half degree difference. So you got 25 years to reach that. There's no way. We're gonna break that way before 2050. And then they say, like, by the end of the century, it's gonna be 4 degrees. Okay. Okay. So now I have to explain something very quickly here. Um, some of these scenarios, especially kind of the extreme scenarios, they actually they rely on the fact that we're going to go business as usual. It means that basically we're going to keep burning fossil fuels, and like maybe even more than now, until the end of the century. And that's why you see these kind of catastrophic numbers, like 4 degrees, or I've seen even more. Okay. But the reality is, though, and people like Trump and said, right, and of course we're in for 4 very bad years, at least 4 very bad years. Uh, but at the end of the day, though, people like Trump, etc., and his goons, they can keep pushing for fossil fuels all they want. But there are certain market trends which exist, which show that renewables are catching up very, very quickly to the price of fossil fuels. And in fact, in some places of the world, the price, I should say, to get renewables is already cheaper than to use fossil fuels. And there are many reasons for that. Fossil fuels are difficult to get. It's very dirty. It's a dirty process. There's a lot of transportation involved. There's a lot of maintenance involved. Sometimes there are accidents and people die in mines, etc. So in many countries, you already see the renewables getting the upper hand, and this is only going to continue. It has to continue because, unfortunately, if you don't do anything, if you don't take any action whatsoever to limit the temperature, then the world is going to just get more and more extreme every year. It's going to be just more disasters. Well, I should say maybe the frequency actually will not increase, but the intensity will definitely increase. That's for sure. So that's about that curve. I think that's pretty much it from that video. I will share the link in the comments. And yeah, this is actually probably a different video. This one, it's most likely about Siberia, because that's what's in the subtitles. And again, this is, probably this goes to people who think that, why is it happening? It's cold outside. Like, why are there wildfires? It doesn't make sense. Like, I understand if it's hot, you can have fire, but it's happening when it's cold. And why is that? Well, I think like in the natural world, I mean, of course, you can have assholes just trying to burn forests on purpose, and that happens as well. But if you're talking just in nature, it's probably from, I would say, lightning strikes. Well, you can't really stop them, but they're gonna strike some area, and fire starts, and that's how it's gonna spread out. And it doesn't matter in this case whether it's hot or cold. It just depends on the how dry is the ground, and what kind of ground is it. Like if it's leaves, or some kind of dry wood, etc., etc., it's going to catch fire. And then it doesn't matter if it's like a hot area or a cold area. Like Siberia is very cold, obviously. But yeah. Well, that's it for my video. I hope you go out there and learn more about the topic. We can't be in denial. We can't live in denial that this is not happening, And do check out my course as well. It's on my channel. I'll put the link in the description. So go and have a look there. It's completely free. You get 15 short lectures, and it's going to give you a nice kind of overview of climate change. I do talk about some data, which is from the Yale, I think it's from the Yale Climate Change Research Center. So there's some good information there as well. And go and have a look and learn more about the topic, All right, that's it for the video, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.